Hello, and welcome to my Emu versus Ace guide. In today's video, we're going to do a comprehensive deep dive into the Emu versus Ace matchup from the perspective of Emu. The content is going to be a little dense in some places, so feel free to skip around. I will make sure to have marked chapters so that you can skip around to the section that seems most relevant for you. Without further ado, let's get into the meat of the content. All right, so here we have the deck list, pretty standard. The only things here that are kind of contentious is the St. Charles. I run St. Charles over the Stussy now. That is a recent change, actually, but I really like it, and I think it'll make a lot of sense when we get into the theory for the Ace matchup. It's also obviously better in the mirror, since Stussy gets no value in the mirror, and a handful of other matchups. It's just really useful to have a very cheap blocker that also mills a card. On the Ace side, we can see that we are not running the Tax Beard. We just have the 2/9 Beard, the 4 Newgate. Obviously, everything else is pretty standard. Atmos is the other tack choice that's a little bit weird, and then this Jozu is also a little bit weird. I had 4 Thatch and 4 Thatch and 0 Jozu, but I was missing sometimes with my GARP search when I really needed a 2K. I wasn't finding it. So this gives us a searchable 2K off of that. Obviously, Thatch is still searchable off the ESO, and we do draw 1 million cards, so it's no big deal. And yeah, a pretty standard list, I would say, for both.
Okay, so the TLDR is, as an Emu player, you want to get to Tendon with 3 or more life remaining at whatever the cost, essentially. And then also, obviously, get your 5 Elders into the trash, and then start chaining Gorosei. Each time you chain a Gorosei, you want to swing 8s with all your guys, swing 6 with the leader, and then refresh your board and swing 8 with the Venus. As you're doing these loops, it's going to be roughly 6 to 7 cards out of your opponent's hand each turn, which means that for each life, it requires 1 additional 12k body on the Ace side. So you effectively have that number of turns to get them out of cards in hand, out of life, and dead. This also means that to keep this level of pressure, you also are not allowed to take any of your life as they are building their board with 12Ks. Now that sounds a little bit hard, but we do get the 2 blockers every turn, and we also will have a nice never existed or a equilibrium in hand most of the time, which allows us to easily count on one of the swings, especially the leader swing, and then we're able to block the other 2. As they turn more blocker sideways, we then have more swings that can go through. As they swing more, we block more, and it's a vicious cycle. That's the TLDR. That'll win you a lot of games just knowing that. The rest of this guide is going to be how to get to those points, / proving out that high-level concept.
Okay, so here we have just a completely natural late-game state that I was able to get into playing against myself for the demonstrations of this video. This is just completely how the game plays out. And we currently have just finished the Aces 10-on turn. We're now going over into the Emu's first 10-on turn because Emu went first, so we just had a 9. So we'll go get our turn. We're going to go into 3 cards in hand as the Emu. And we're just going to check our trash real quick. Make sure that everything's looking decent. We got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 cards in hand. So we have no way whatsoever to get to a state where we're going to have a natural 6 from that Emu swing. Looking at the Aces board state right now, unfortunately there was not a combination of an 8-cost event plus a 10-cost on our 8-don turn, which means that we had to play the Yamato. Unfortunately, Yamato drew us into double 8-cost event on our 8-don turn, which is just kind of annoying. But it is what it is. We were able to play out the Newgate on our 10-don turn, and then follow that up with an Uta, so we have a secondary chum blocker that's able to be an extra level of insulation for any danger. We have the Roger in hand and ready to go. We have another 8-cost event and a 9 Beard in hand, as well as additional Utas. So we're kind of wanting, like, our best case scenario here is to find ourselves another blocker beard before our next turn. If we have to take a life and draw a card, it might be worth it just for that. On the Emu side here, we really want to get rid of this Uta blocker. We know we're not going to get rid of this new gate, but if we can get rid of this Uta blocker, it would make us feel a lot better about just everything. Unfortunately, he also has these two annoying Garps. These could potentially swing, especially if you're doing an ACOS event into a blocker beard and then putting up 2, or you do an early Roger before you get to where you're actually making your final push. You have a Roger, so then you have a 10-Don Roger turn. Garp can become threatening in those situations, especially as we have these lower hand sizes. But I think what makes most sense for us to do in this scenario is just poke for 2 6s, hope for the best, see if we can get some cards out. Our ace player over here has 11 cards in our hand. We only have 3 in our hand, but we have 4 life. This means that we should win in about 90% of our cases. So we'll just start off with our first 6k poke with our Mars. Ace sees a 6k poke, and this is a natural 1k from Atmos if I've ever seen one. This is just makes sense. We're down to 10 cards on this side, still to the 3 over here. We then do Emu's leader ability to trash and draw a card, and we found a 2k. That's kind of nice. This comes down here. So we're up to 4 cards in hand. Now, we only have 1 Elders in hand, so we're hoping that we find one when we do our 10 cost play. We had to trash an Elders early on with a search event. So we also were able to do a Shirahoshi early on that was able to get those back to the bottom of the deck. Now, we have to make a decision if we are pitching the Jupiter or the Saturn for the next 10 cost play here, because we have no 10 cost in our trash. So that means there's could be a total of 3. We know one of those is too deep, so like the second from bottom, and there could be some in our life. We have no idea what's in our life. So I think we need to hold on to the Saturn just in case we have to dig for one the following turn. So we will go stage, pay 3, play out the 10 cost, and then we'll go 1 to activate the 10 cost effect. And I think we have to do the Jupiter for the reasons mentioned before. So we pitch the Jupiter, play Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and a Venus. Saturn does a top 5 search. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it paid off. We found ourselves a 5 Elders. So now we can put these 2k, 2k, 1k. I'm putting the Shira at the top because this is non-searchable, and this helps us prevent from ducking out, so we want to see it sooner. And then the other ones are just searchable cards, so that's fine. We don't want to use the Mars. It's not worth getting rid of a Garp because it might potentially be an issue later on. We'll just get rid of this, get rid of that later. So now the question is, do we turn the Venus sideways or not? And I think in most cases we will want to. I think the ace, given the hand, he's wanting to draw anyway. So I think we swing 10 -2 to the new gate over here. He just takes. I think that's what happens. Oh wait, I forgot we haven't swung with the emu yet. Does that change anything? Probably not. I think he still just takes one of these, and then they'll block the other. So let's go with just an 8. 8k, swing at the lead, -2 to the new gate. So the new gate is now at 10k. Even if we loaded up the remaining 4 Dawn onto our emu, it's not going to get us there. He's going to actually decide to take this hit, though, hoping that he can get a little bit deeper into his deck and find another new gate. That is unfortunate. We go to 6 and 6, so we have 12 cards in hand. 1 life remaining. We still have a block. We might as well poke with our emu, but there's no point. He blocks with the 10 cost, and then we pass. So we'll refresh on this side. Take those off. Oh, we still have 1 life. Draw for the turn. Unfortunate. We did not find what we were looking for. Some might be tempted in this position to go all the way down to 0 already, because they're a little weird. A little freaky like that, you know. But I don't think that's necessarily the right play, because we could go Ninebeard plus I am Whitebeard, taking our last life, going to a 10k. If we do that, we stall out a turn, but because they won't really be able to do any damage. But we know he has a 5 Elders in hand, and he's just going to be able to park that next turn, and we can't go for game the turn after because he has 4 life. So you could just take all of the hits and then just swing really big. So I don't think that's the play. We could just go for a natural Ninebeard, swing 9 with our ace, and 12 with our Newgate, and be an 8k leader next turn with 1 life. That's also a decent position. But again, I think the problem is we're just not really getting a whole lot of pressure with that option. We could also attempt to go for a Otama and try to high roll for finding that 10 beard, so that we could do the better 8 cost play. Yeah, I think we kind of need to do that because we also have these 2 bricks in hand that we want to get rid of. Those are really unfortunate draws, honestly. So we'll pay 1 for the Otama, draw 2, 1, 2, and we trash 1, trashing this one. Are we in too deep? We could look at top 5, trying to find one. And our worst case now is we just play out the 9 beard afterwards. It feels a little awkward, but that might just be the better route. So let's pay 1 more. Play the Ezo. Top 5 search. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we found a 10 beard. Sometimes the risk pays off. I mean, there are enough of these, and we've gone through a good number of cards already. We'll figure out the hand size here in a second. We'll then use the remaining 8 Dawn to play out our 10 beard, and we'll play over one of these Garps. On play, draw 2. 1, 2. Trashing 1. We can get rid of the other red rock here. And now we can allocate 2 Dawn to our ace and 2 Dawn to our standing Newgate. And we can swing 8k at life. This first 8k we, I think, block every single time with the Workery. Block and draw. And then the 14k to face, we will just block with the Mars. So block. So we now have a situation where we're up to 4 in hand again as the Emu. The ace is tapped out of Dawn. Their hand size is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 6. So we're at 12 cards total in hand, which is not too bad. We played a lot of stuff. We did to try to dig and play for the 10 beard, and I think it paid off because we found ourselves another 10 beard. We still have an I am Whitebeard. We still have an Uta block. We still have a 10 cost block. We're in a decent spot as the ace. Over to the Emu's turn now. First, we refresh everything. With these refreshes, boom, we get to draw for the turn, and we now have 3 counter events. That's actually huge. Nice. So I think we just go with our normal game plan here. We start with a 8k from our Venus. We're going to do a -2 to the standing blocker beard. This is to kind of force them to go for a block early. He doesn't really want to go to 0 just yet because going to 0 doesn't really do a lot. Roger play next turn is not going to do anything. So he's really not wanting to go for that angle yet. I think what makes the most sense is just to block, because if he does go for the second Venus after the 10 cost play, we're just going to be putting him in a position where he's swinging into an 8K instead of a 6K. So it's going to be less cards burnt from hand if we do that. So I think that's a pretty decent option to just go for that initial block. It's not like he can push your game through 12 cards. So then we'll poke for another 8K. This is just the typical game plan for the emo. We're going to want to poke for 8s, pepper them, try to get rid of some cards from hand. So here, we're going to do a 1K in the form of Yamato, and then a 2K in the form of Jozu, just because these seem like the least valuable 2-in-1s. We are now down to 10 cards in hand. Then we go back to the emu, another 8K swing. So this 8K swing, we can choose to block with the Uta, or we can just counter out. We have plenty of counter right now. I think we do just, in fact, go for a double Otama angle. He has 5 cards in hand. The question is, do we give him 2 2s, or give him a 2 and a 1 and giving up a pudding? I think the pudding in hand is more valuable in certain circumstances than the two Otamas. The circumstances where this becomes more valuable is where we're able to get rid of a lot of cards, because you can see he's already starting to build up. He's up to 5 now at this point. He's going to get another search. He's going to get another draw still. And we are going to be going down on resources. So as he starts to get above us on resources as the ace player, the pudding starts to look a little bit more appealing to play down. So I think we're going to go, in fact, for the double 2K here. And back into the emu's court. Emu will release the Saturn to get a draw off of the leader ability. We then will look, see what we're at in trash. 3, 5, 10, 15, 17. We don't have a natural 6 yet, which is fine. We'll just go and poke for a non-natural 6 with 1 Dawn under it. And here we have an option of giving up a 2K in the form of Thatch, or going for the 1K in the pudding. I think the Utas we're probably going to want to play as chum blockers here. We're probably giving up that Uta block on the next 8K swing that's coming our way. So because of that, I think we probably go for Thatch here. It's debatable which one of these is going to have a more likely situation for their niche to come up in this game. I'm leaning towards probably the pudding is probably going to get more value, but it does feel a little weird throwing away a 2K when it could be a 1. But I think I am going to go for the Thatch. We could also potentially pitch one of these, but I think both of these need to hit the board in order for us to get to our win con. So we're going to go with that. 1K out, 7 cards in hand. And then we're going to come back over to the emu. Obviously, we've got a 10 cost in hand. That's going to be 3 plus 1, and then we have 2 live for counter events. So we will go and drop the stage and 3 Dawn, play out that 10 cost, use the 10 cost effect, pitching the Charlos to then call out all of the other elders. Boom. And that would be Saturn, a Mars, and a Warkery. On play, Saturn looks at top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is the first situation where we are not going to have a 10 cost on the ready. Venus is like the next best thing that we can find here. This could potentially lose us the game if we don't find another 10 cost on our next search. And for reference, there's already 2 in trash. We know we bottom decked 1 early on, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 cards left in deck. I think we've done 2 or 3 searches. If it's been 3 searches, we might actually hit it off of this Saturn search, which could save our butts, but we'll see. We have 2 Dawn up, which means that we have some up for counter events. And I think we do just, in fact, go for an 8K here so that we do force the block out of the Uta. We give a -2 somewhere random, and he will go for that Uta block because it is better than going down to 5 cards in hand. Back to the Newgate player. Or, sorry, not the Newgate player. The Ace player. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Refresh. Draw for the turn is another I Am Whitebeard, which is fantastic. This turn, we can just go for I Am Whitebeard, play out the blocker beard, and then play an Uta down, which is just a really strong offensive and defensive play because we can start dropping some bigger swings. And we still have double blockers for the next turn. Yeah, I think that's just the play. So we'll go I Am Whitebeard, pay 8, so set 2 to the side, rest all the rest, play out the Newgate, 2 rested Dawn here, 2 rested Dawn to one of these Newgates. Oops. And then we draw 2, 1, 2. Oh, look at that. We have the 4th. And then for pitching, I think we just pitch the Ezo. And then with the last 2 Dawn, oh, first let's do our swings. So we'll go 8K to lead. This first 8K, we will just give a counter event, right? We go never existed. That's our rad beam. We do that basically always. Then the first 12K comes in. We give a block and we draw. Found another never existed. That's pretty good. We go 14K. It doesn't matter if this was to here or here. We're blocking no matter what. So we block with the Mars. And then now we're going to use that last 2 Dawn to play out the Uta. And this is going to have to replace the Ezo. So we'll move this over. There we go. And then we'll look at our hand again. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards in hand. 6 total. Wow. Over here on the Emu side, let's refresh. Draw for turn. Found a Saturn. So we have 3 counter events. If we do not find ourselves an Elders, this could be really scary. So we need a total of 8 Dawn set aside, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 to play the Saturn. 4 for the Elders play. That leaves us with 2 Dawn to work with. Just looking at our trash here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So we are a natural 6 as a leader. So we'll go +1 here. Okay, so let's think here. He has 2 blocks. He has 6 in hand. We have 3 swings potentially. I think we have to start with the 8K again with a -2 somewhere. So we'll go 8K with Venus to leader, -2 to the standing Newgate as always. This is just the best start we could do. And I think we have to go 2K and 1K. So we're giving up the Uta and the pudding here. If this bites us in the butt later, we'll see. Down to 4 in hand. And okay, I am back. Sorry, my little dude woke up from his nap and needed some attending to. So where we left off, the Venus just swung into the Ace for 8K. Ace gave a 2K, 1K, a pudding, and a Uta counters. And the Newgate is that standing received the -2K. We're still in the emu's turn. We don't have another 10 cost lined up, but the ace player does not know this, obviously. So the next thing to do would be another. So we want to have at least 4 here. So I think we just go for another 8K swing. And we see what happens with this 8K swing. And the ace player is going to block with the 10K new gate. And this is because if we take here, we go to 0, and now he can maybe math. Maybe not. I mean, maybe with this, but he doesn't know that. The emu player feels like they're out of dawn at this point. Releases the Saturn to draw. Oh my gosh. This deck's too good. It's too good. You're never punished. You're just never punished in this deck. No hard decisions to be made ever. So this changes everything, actually. We don't have to play the Saturn, so we could actually leave up 3 cards, 2 to 3, maybe 2. So we have 4 for the other, for the Elders. Then we can have 1 for the Jupiter swing and 1 for the extra Venus swing, leaving 2 up for 2 counter events. This is broken. This is too good. We'll just go ahead, swing in 8. The ace player I don't think wants to take at this point, but is also a little bit weary about going down to 0 because it opens up potential for lethal routes. Also doesn't really want to give up the Uta block, because if it gives up the Uta block, then potentially could remove one of these, which sets back the win con a turn, and we're running out of resources. So setting back the win con a turn is actually really, really bad. If we take this hit, we get to see this card draw a card, potentially finding ourselves a way to survive while holding on to all 4 of these, or all 3 of these new gate blockers. It also would turn on the Roger. The downside to that route is it takes away the ability to become a 10K leader next turn with this. But we only have 2K in hand. We haven't used leader ability yet, so we can pitch any one of these 4 cards to become a 2K. But as of right now, we don't even have a 1K to get out of this 8. And then let alone the 6 that's coming next. What to do? I think what makes the most sense here is to actually take and draw to see what we are working with. And that's a brick and a 1K. Okay, so we can get out of 1 more 8. That is really scary. But what the emu player sees is just 6 cards in hand, right? So we have to keep that in mind. It's like 6 cards in the hand psychologically seems like a lot. So he's probably not going to try to push and like really try to force the game or anything. So he'll just swing 6. Obviously, the ace player wants to go for that 1K to counter out. And then the emu player goes for the rest of its normal plays, which would be the 4, 3 for the stage, and then 1 for the leader ability. And in this case, we will pitch one of these Saturns because the Venus is a win con next turn potentially. And we restand all of these. Get these out of my way because these are now new versions of themselves. And we have one more. Workery. That's what we're missing. Okay, so we get all the elders back. We have 2 Dawn over here, 1 Dawn over here. Top 5 search from Saturn, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The obvious selection here is the 2K, and we'll place these 2 to the top. And now we have this 1 Dawn left over. We're going to swing 8 into the leader, minus 2K to the new gate, although this doesn't really matter because we're out of swings. He'll give the Uta, because he dies if he doesn't, and passes back to the ace. So the ace restands everything. And at this point, the ace is just lost. We have 6 in hand, 1 2K, 5 bricks. Technically, one of these could be a leader ability for a 2K, so we have 2 2Ks, right? Our best bet is to go... We can't push for game, because even if we go Roger here, and we swing all out, best case he goes to 0 life. I mean, I guess technically if the 6 could go through, then you could potentially win, but that's not happening with 6 cards and an Emu hand with 2 standing Dawn. We know what that means. If we go a 4th Newgate, we could potentially find maybe another Uta. How many Utas have we gone through? 3. Okay, there is 1 more Uta in our deck. Maybe we find it, and then we could get to 5 blockers, but we're really just delaying the inevitable at that point. Although, potentially, if none of the blockers died, and then we go for Roger after that, we would then have 4 Newgate swings, the Roger, and then the Ace. That's still not even the best odds to go for game with that, which is crazy to say. Yeah, I think this is just where Ace loses. I think this is our only hope at doing anything, though. So we go 8 cost event, play out the 4th Newgate, Blocker Beard. On play, we allocate the 2 Dawn to the Ace, and then the 2 Dawn to the Garp. And then on play, draw 2, and trashing 1, and all bricks. This is ridiculous. So you can poke for 8. Why not? Over here, we honestly have no reason to not suspect we can go for game. 0 life, 5 cards in hand. If we just have these 4 swings, we should be able to math out the game with the Nezero in hand. Meaning that we are pretty safe no matter what he goes for. And every blocker he turns sideways is just an advantage to us. So we could just go a 4K to get out of that. And let's pretend we do start taking some of these. So he starts swinging out all of these, and we take 3 life. We're still in a position where we just win next turn. If he leaves all of these standing, so let's say he leaves all of the blockers standing, I think we still just win next turn. So we obviously win if he swings all his blockers and we just take all of them. We obviously win because he doesn't have the blocks. With 4 blockers up and 5 in hand, does he even win? Does he even live a turn? Let's find out. So let's pretend this is the route he took. So he has 2 Dawn, maybe he set up 2 more here, swung 6. So you got 1 more 6, we give another 2K. So now it goes back to us. Draw for the turn, we get a Mars. Mars isn't getting rid of anything. So the really only play that we have is the Venus is what's showing. This is a 6K. Boom. So with 5 in his hand, we'll just start with our AK swing. And he can counter out of one of these swings. We'll do a -2 here, and we'll just say he blocked the one that we minused. So this is now a 10. Let's say we release this with Emu. I'm not making this up. This is just how the deck is. Oh my gosh. For those of you that didn't notice, the release got me the draw for the 4th Elder. So this actually opens up additional routes that we didn't have available to us. So we can go even more aggressive here while still being safe. Because we wouldn't know what was in his hand, and potentially after all these blocks, not knowing, if we didn't have this in hand, we would feel a little bit unsettled by swinging out here. But it's just super safe. So he goes for a 8K swing. I think this is the one that we counter out of. So you give him a Marco, and now we just have 3 bricks in hand. So from the perspective over here, we go another 8. That's a block. We go another 8. That's a block. We go another 8. That's a block. And he has 3 in hand, has already used leader ability. We could swing 11, which means that we would be assuming that he does not have 3 2Ks. In this case, we could go and look through the trash if we really want to be safe here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 2Ks out of 12. So there's 3 2Ks left in his deck. He has 3 cards in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we could play the probability game. What are the odds that those 12 cards have no 2Ks left for like a typical ace list, and all 3 cards in his hand are 2Ks? If that is the situation here, we would lose by going all in. And I think the other thought would be, well, if we poke for 6, and then we go for if we poke for 6 here, and then we go for our 10 cost play, we only have 1 Dawn up for 1 counter event, and he has 4 of these. So we go 1 and we go 8. That would mean that 1 has to be a brick. So it's actually slightly worse math to go for a 6-8 than it is to just go for 11. Is that right? Wait, do we have 11 or 12? We haven't played out anything. We attached 1 Dawn to 5 cards. Oh, one of these is rested. Yeah, because we released the Venus, finding this. So we could either do a 6-8, or we could go 11. 6-8 would be a 1K, 2K, 1K. A 11 would be 3 2s to get out. If he does go for so take up 4 cards to go for the 5 Elders play, and if he does go for a Roger, we only have 1 Dawn up. So that's a 3. That gets us to 6. That's an 11. So we don't have the ability to counter out of all of these plus another. So I think we actually are put in a position where we have to go for it and rely on him not having the 2Ks in hand. So we go 11. Obviously, we see the open hand. It was 3 bricks, so he would have lost if we just swung 6. But that's how we're thinking about this, right? We would lose at this stage if he goes for Roger and we only had 1 Dawn up. So there you have it. This is the late game breakdown for why, even when we have a pretty extreme example on the ace side, we're still able to clearly win and be in a really strong position. But on to the next section. So here's the game theory section on Emu versus Ace. This is kind of like a little bit more in-depth, but still pretty high level as far as game theory goes. I didn't want to get too into the weeds on numbers and breaking down the game into just a bunch of numbers for people that are not interested into that. So I'm keeping it one step away from actual game theory. But I did want to break down exactly how this matchup works. So we'll just go over some key concepts first. The 3 states to consider for Emu's ability to pressure are when Ace is a 6K leader, when Ace is an 8K leader, and when Ace is a 10K leader. We'll go into these a little bit more depth here in a second. Emu's hand size is unpressured until Ace has 3+ swings. Since each turn we draw for the turn, we block plus draw 1. Play 5 Elders is discard -2, and then search for Saturn. We net +1 every turn. This means the first time we go neutral in hand size is the 3 swing turn. For Ace to kill Roger, he needs more 12Ks than Emu has life. In the late game, the biggest decision Ace has to make is how many swings can he safely make without risking death. You can use this to map out the number of turns you have left before they can win with Roger. The Emu versus Ace matchup is largely decided by the 10 Dawn turn. With 4 life, you have a 90% win rate. 3 life, a 70% win rate. 2 life, it drops to sub 50 with a 45% win rate. And with only 1 life, you only have a 10% win rate. The 3 states to consider for Emu's ability to pressure. We have a 6k leader, best case for Emu. Each swing, Ace has to choose to give us 2 cards, 1 block, or 1 life. When Ace is an 8k leader, it's still an okay state for Emu because each swing, Ace has to choose either 1 card from hand, 1 block, or 1 life. When they're a 10k leader, it's essentially a pass turn for Emu. Typically, in this state, we're going to want to park a 10 cost, then maybe swing 10k with the leader and pass. If they've swung out all their blockers when going to 10k, they will do this sometimes because it allows, like, they feel safe behind a 10k leader and they're wanting to get 1 more life out of us in order to push for Roger the turn after is typically the case. We might be able to get a -1 to hand if they did go for a all-out swing, but if they have a standing blocker, there's no sense in swinging 10 if they have a 12k block, right? So it's just a -1 from hand. Card advantage that we can establish by swing. We can assume that the Emu will get between 2 to 3 AK swings more than blockers per turn. We'll go into this on the next slide, why we can make that assumption. But with that assumption, this means we can do a -5 to -7 from hand or a -3 to -4 from hand while taking a life. An 8k leader, it's only a -2 to -3 from hand or no net change to hand with a -1 to life or a -1 from hand and -1 from life. The no net change to hand is if they have a Dawn under them and they take the life and draw a card, then there's no net change to hand size because they drew 2, they had to pitch 2, but they took a life. So we are getting closer to the win con. We are just not, like, actually getting that much neg from hand. And then if they didn't have a Dawn attached, like let's say they hard played a 9-beard or something in the Surge, or I don't know why they would do that. Maybe they went up for the Rad Beam. I don't know. But you could potentially be in a situation where it's -1 with a -1 to life. If they are a 10k leader, there's no net change from hand. There's no net change to hand to -1 from hand, but it applies board pressure that threatens an auto block or a -4 from hand with a 12k swing, plus 3 more Dawn to work with on our following turn, which can close out the game or force the Ace to go for game a turn early. Yeah, all of that is really strong still. Why can we assume this 2 to 3 unblockable swings? Well, in late game, Ace's bodies are almost all blockers, right? They're wanting to chain the 10 cost blocker beard, just like we're wanting to change our 10 cost 5 elders. If they turn a blocker sideways, we have 1 less swing, but they have 1 less block. If they leave it standing, we have 1 more swing in the form of that blocker, but they have 1 more block. In the case that they swing 1 blocker and I have 1 left standing, and we use 1 blocker so that we can swing with a total of 5 AK swings next turn. This is because we have the 4 bodies that we have remaining on the board, 4 Dawn to swing AK 4 times. The 10 cost will then refresh, uses up an additional 4 Dawn. Then the Nuzro that comes out has another AK swing that we can make, and it uses 1 Dawn. So we use 9 Dawn total, leaving us with 1 Dawn for Never Existed so that we can keep our hand at a net neutral size. This would mean that they block 1 of the 8Ks but have 4 more incoming. This logic repeats until they have 4 blocker beard on the board, which hopefully by the time they have 4 blocker beard on the board, we have them in a state where they're scared to turn all of the blockers sideways because we want them to be in a position where if they turn all their blockers sideways and start pressuring our hand, then they go to lethal. So Emu's hand size is unpressured until Ace has 3+ swings. This is due to Never Existed giving us a 4K and having 2 free blockers every turn. This is immense consistency and just sustainability pressure that we're able to apply as Emu. This is why the deck is really strong. So if they have a 10 cost on board, they swing A with Ace, 14k with a blocker beard, either 2 blocks or 1 Never Existed and 1 Workery, which is hand neutral. The reason why we might go for a never existed and a war tree instead of just giving them 2 blocks is, like, let's say we've already found all of our never existed and we have those all in hand, and we have a Shira to rope back more into our deck, then it might make sense to give up one of those never existed early and then have an additional turn where we have that additional swing instead of just having the additional never existed in hand. If they had 2 10 cost on board, swing 8k with Ace, 12k with Blocker Beard, 14k with Blocker Beard. That's 1 never existed and 2 blockers. If they have 3 10 cost on board, this is the first turn our hand can be pressured. The key insight here is we have 2 turns to pressure the Ace into the position they need standing blockers to not die. So this is what I was saying before. If we have them in a position where if they turn that third 10k swing, 10 cost swing sideways and go down to just 1 blocker, we want to be in a position where that threatens lethal for their next turn. Emu versus Ace is largely decided by the 10 Dom. Using the information up to this point, I think it kind of becomes clear why this is the case. But since we are able to get a decent chunk of cards out of our opponent's hand with each 10 Don turn, and the Ace cannot get cards out of our hand until establishing 3+ swings, Emu continues to find pieces needed to survive the Big Roger push, and the number of life minus the number of 12k bodies is roughly the number of turns left in the game. The more turns we have before we can die, the more hand pressure we can apply, getting us closer to that win con. If the game only has 1 turn before the Ace hits their win con, then we realistically cannot pressure them enough to push for game. So this is why the more life we have left, the more turns we have to go through those -5 per turn or -3 per turn or whatever out of those hand pressuring, it gets us closer to our win cons. And we can actually map out what lethal would be for each of those situations. This is also why it's so crucial that we learn how to play the early and mid game in a way that is hyper efficient to maximize our life going into those 10 Dawn turns, while also making sure that we have everything set up for the 10 Dawn turns. This is also why playing Stussy and going first is really strong, as it delays the game state a turn, like it sets back the Ace a turn, pushing back our losing condition by a turn, while also being able to pressure with a 10k swing pretty early, which is going to get additional cards out of their hand earlier than relative to when the game ends. And then lastly, I just have a quick key for lethal. You can screenshot this, you can memorize it. It's really good to have on the top of your head. Basically what this means is that assuming that you are a 6k leader, because we're looking at late game where we're able to push for game, we're probably going to have 19 plus cards in trash easily. So assuming that both leaders are at 6k, this is the amount that of cards in their hand that they'll need, assuming X number of blocks, events, and life. So in the case of we have 5 elders on the board, the optimal route to go for is AK, 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 and then load up the rest of the Dawn Swing 11. This takes, if they have 0 blocks or events or life, which I call Bell from here on out because it was a mouthful, that's going to be 13 cards in their hand needed to survive. So if they have 12 or fewer cards in their hand, there's no way they survive. If they have 1 blocker, event, or life, that's 12 or 10 cards. 2, it's 8. 3, it's 6, etc., etc. And like on the 10 cards turn, so with 1 bell, if they have 9 or less cards, they die. On the 2 bell, it's 7 or less cards, they die. On the 3 bell, it's 5 or less cards. So you just take the number of cards needed for them to survive, and you subtract 1, and then that gives you the guaranteed lethal hand size. The other key insight here is when they have a life, is one of these takes, you need to add that life to their hand size before doing the calculation, right? So in the case of 1 bell, let's look at this one, for example. 3 leader swings, they have 1 bell, and in this case, the bell is life. And let's say they had 6 cards in hand. It's not guaranteed lethal because when you hit them for that life and they take that life, it eats one of our swings. and then gives them one additional card in hand. So that one additional card in hand could be a brick, and it doesn't matter. It could be that they already had a brick, and it doesn't matter. But that one card could be the 2K that they need to survive this turn. So in the case of that last card being or one of the bell interactions is a life, that would mean that you would want to have, like, in the case of one bell being a life in 3 Elder Swings, they would need to have 5 cards in hand, because they're going to take one hit. That's going to be one card added to their hand. And then from there we have guaranteed lethal, if that makes sense. This is going to conclude the theory portion of this video. The next one, I'm going to go over some examples of different games that show the late game situations of being at that 3+ life and then resulting in a win con, with some examples from myself, some from tournaments, and yeah. I think this one I was recording simply because I saw that I had the 3 never existed in hand. Oh, yeah. Oops. The 3 never existed in hand with 3 follow-up elders, which I thought was kind of crazy. So I started recording. But you can see, again, we're in a position that's ridiculously strong because we have that 3 life, and we're already winning in a winning position. So we're able to keep pushing that pressure, pushing that game state further and further. And if we fast forward a little bit, we get a lot of cards out of hand. He goes for another 10 beard, and he's going to have to try to get to a position where he can go for game. The problem is, right here, if he does try to push with these blockers, then he's just going to be opening himself up to death because he only has 6 cards left in hand, no life. So each of these that turn sideways is putting him a little bit closer to his losing condition. And if he doesn't swing stuff, then he's not getting to a position where he could kill us with Roger. So he goes for an 8-beard, swings a 9. This one we do just go for the counter out because it's basically free. And here we just block, get our draw. He's going to swing again. We're going to block. Now here it might have made a lot of sense for him to just swing the 12. But since he only has 5 cards in hand, that would put him down to 1 block with 5 cards in hand. So I'm assuming he probably has some dead cards. And then we'd be able to start poking him for 10s, trying to force another block, and potentially even losing 10 beard. Or I guess he wouldn't be losing a 10 beard because it would be... But anyway, this is fine. So now he has 5 in hand, he has 2 blocks, he's an AK lead. So now we can just start poking for the leader and try to push for game. He gives us the first block. With the first one, we get another card out of hand, a 2K out of hand. And then I think he leader abilities here. No, he gives us another 2K. So we just release one of our bodies, play out the 10 cost. And we're probably just going to keep everything standing and not do any more swings, because if we look at our hand, we have 3 counter events. So it's a 4K, 3K, 3K, 2K, and then 3 ones. With our 3 life, even if he Rogers us here, there's not really a good route for him to win. So this first 6K comes in, we give him a 2K. The 10K comes in, we're going to counter out of this with a 4K. Oh no, 2 3s? 2 3Ks. Oh gosh, why did we do it like that? That's a little weird, but it's fine. We take the first. Okay, now we have a 2K, we're good. This one, I think we probably just take, because he has one more 12 that has to go through. So yeah, and then now we have 7, 9, 10, so we can go to 15. There's no winning, no losing, so we might as well just force them all in. And we go, yep. We could have been more efficient than that, but that's fine. And obviously with all of our elders and no blockers, it's a clear win. I was asked in my testing channel what to do when they have the Yama. And we're actually in a really good position here. We ended up going, I think, first in this matchup. Is that right? I think so. They Yama'd me on curve, and they're asking how you stay at high life with the Yamas and everything. And I said, I don't really know. But this game ended up working out pretty well for me. I just start pressuring the board state. This is the second Yama he played. I think the reason why I actually win this one is, to be honest, is because I don't think he chained another Yama. I think he had not another Yama. I don't think he chained 10 cost and played a Yama down instead after the first 10 cost came down, which allowed me to catch up again. But we can see that even with the Yama plays rushing down and trying to get that extra pressure, we're staying really high on life, and obviously it just gets worse and worse as time goes on. Here I go for the really big swing of the Yama because he only has 2 cards, so you'd have to get a 0 in hand or let me have that kill, and then we'd be guaranteed 2 blockers to survive another turn. And here he goes for the classic taking the life to go to an AK lead, giving out the Dawns, and starts making some swings, which is fine by us. 10k to life, we're just going to block and block. And then we're going to start poking for 8s. That's what we do here. We go 8k. He's going to cycle out a card, but he's really low on resources, right? So this one we obviously clear out and cycle, go for another win. Oh gosh. Yeah, here he's so low on resources, he had to block and let a 10 cost die, which is just like so bad. Here is yet another late game. We're just going through the standard game plan. We start poking for 8. He left 2 blockers up here, I think because he is getting a little bit lower on life, or maybe he just saw that there's really no point in giving us a bunch of swings when I'm just going to be blocking out of them for free anyway. And he has enough cards where we get the advantage of playing the Shira because it lets us recycle resources. He gives us the block, which is nice. And this Shira lets us put back a 10 Elders and another Shira so that we have it for later if we need it. Forces a card out of hand for free. And then we still have, we get to refresh our board. We still have 2 never existed in hand, so he's not going to be able to apply any real pressure to us anyway. We found another 10 Elders, which is great. And then here we probably just poke for another 7 just to get 1 more card out of hands. And yeah, we're just in such a strong position because he can't push for game. If he goes down to 0 and tries to Roger next turn, he just loses. And yeah, it's crazy how nice this is. Here he's going to go for a 9 beard. Whoops. Swings 9, it looks like. And depending on where this goes, we probably just take. Oh, I think we probably should have taken that. Or I guess maybe we're trying to force the blockers to be swung. Because if the blockers were swung there, then that would mean that we could just go for game with math. But yeah, we're just going to start planning out our turn, start with some pokes. I think the other thing that we're thinking is we might be able to just put out the Warkery and then just kind of chill. But yeah, we just go for another poke. It's down to 4 cards in hand, 3 in hand. If he blocks here after the refresh, it would be tempting to go for the no-zero. Here, I think we just leave it standing because we know we have game next turn and he can't win next turn if we keep up 2 Dawn. For the double never existed. And he's at 6 cards in hand. So if he plays anything down, like the Roger here, he's not going to be able to close out the game. So that's a 2k. And then a 10 we'll take because we know we can counter out one of these 12s. So we want to force him all in on the 12s. And yeah, here we just go never existed, and a 1k. And now, obviously, math is easy to win there. So here we can see going into the late game, we're not quite to 10 Dawn yet, but we're keeping our life pretty healthy. We can skip forward just a little bit. Using blockers, counter events, that's another blocker. Okay, so this will be going into our first 10 Dawn turn. And and he gets out a 10 cost, pitches this, and we can see we have that 3 life situation. And he even does an early Roger, the ace player does, which can be pretty scary because the early Rogers make it to where they can self-turn off the blockers a little bit earlier. But at the same time, if we can't block and we aren't dying, that means that we're able to pressure more cards out of their hand. And we can see that the game... Oops, did not mean to have that on still. As we get closer and closer to the end state, we're still remaining healthy. We're able to manage a board state that keeps them... We even force them down to 0 life. And he's just chilling, right? And he's mapped out. I think he's ready to go for game here. Goes 8, 8. Because the ace player is at 0. He goes and plays the Whitebeard so that he doesn't just die, knowing that he couldn't go for game with just 2 swings, or 2 real swings, or 3 real swings, however you want to look at it. And then he's able to pressure the board with a good number of swings here. And then he also knows exactly how much counter he needs to survive the next turn realistically. So here he's kind of mapping that out, when he needs to survive, etc. And then he goes for game here. So the ace player is going to try. But obviously, in this scenario, the emu player knows exactly what he needs to survive. And the ace has 4 cards in hand with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swings here. We have 2 blocks of interaction, but an 8, that's going to be 2 cards potentially. Let's say he has a dawn up, so that's 1, 2, 3 on the events or life or blockers. So the bell. We have 2 blocks, let's say 1 event, and then 3 additional cards in hand. So that means it only takes 2 swings to get there, right? So 1 is an event, 2 is a block, 3 is a block, 4 is going to be 2 cards, and then if you have a Nuzero, that's game by math. And you could go and load up more Dawn and get the math however you would like there as well. Here, the emu player has managed to make it to the 10 cost turn with 3 life. And by my math, he should be able to win. I think where things go wrong is he does this play here where he attaches 3 Dawn to the Nuzero, and he has a counter event in hand. We know that he has a counter event in hand. Because he grabs one here, I think. Yeah, he grabs another existed. So we know he has a counter event in hand. What he should do here is he should just poke for... he should either not swing at all because he knows it's a feudal block, or he should poke for 8. But he ends up going 10, reducing the blocker so that he can get just 1 card out of hand. And I'm not sure if I value that 1 card out of hand, because what we'll see here is now the ace player is able to drop a 9-beard, and I think goes to 10 life or 10k. I think he plays the events. No, he just hard plays it, but he goes to 8, and he gets a block draw. If he had, instead of block drawing there, if that was a never existed, we now have 2 blocks to protect our Nuzero as well as our life. But he's going to end up turning both blockers sideways because he has 2 life, a large hand, and is going to be an 8k leader defensively. So he's not feeling a lot of pressure here. And this allows him to get the emu player down to 2 life, which is going to make it to where the game ends a turn earlier. Like right now, the ace player is pretty close to being able to guarantee lethal already. Whereas if instead of swinging the Nuzero, you just leave up the 3 Dawn or whatever to
have that counter event live, we're now probably not even swinging these, and then now you're just poking 8s. So you go 8, 8, 8, 8 with lead, 8 with the next nose row, and then now you've gotten 4 cards out of hand. The total card economy here is going to be looking better for us. And then if they turn the Newgate sideways and try to go to an 8K lead again, then we just swing into that and start pressuring the body here. But anyway, he ends up losing this to a Roger at some point. Or actually doesn't even get to a Roger. I think he scoops maybe? Oh no, the game's not over yet. It just goes on a face shot. Where is it? Yeah, so he goes for the Roger here. And he's down to 1 life. I think there's routes he could have taken that would have made it to where he lives this turn, because he does have a ton of counter still. But yeah, it's just the Roger closes out. And we go to game 3, and game 3, obviously, going second makes this a lot easier, but we can see going into our 10 Don turns, we are Omega chilling with 3 life to his 2 life. His hand size, his board size is just really weak. And overall, he's just in a much worse position. We're seeing Shiras coming out. So whenever you start seeing Shiras coming out, it's not a good sign for the Whitebeard. And yeah. Oh, and it stayed alive. Oh my gosh. That's disgusting. And yeah, we get to the end state. Somewhere. I think that was it. So yeah, we get to the end state, and here he just goes for game. 2 cards in hand, yeah, gets it. And GG's. So like you can see, the Emu life is what kind of dictates how much time is left in the game. So we want to make sure that we are doing that to the best of our ability. So let's get into the early game on how we can get into a late game situation feeling pretty good about our life.
Before we get into exactly how to play the early game, I just thought it would be good to get a general sense for the flow for going first and second. So Emu is really wanting to be as consistent as possible, so we're not really going to do anything too terribly different matchup to matchup, so it's pretty good to just have a general idea of what Emu wants to do. Going second first, which is our ideal curve, we prefer to have double search on turn 1. Turn 2, we want a Saturn plus a live counter event, either Equilibrium or Never Existed. This is especially important into Ace. The reason for that is to make sure that we don't take any damage. Going to turn 3, we want to do a Mars with a Charlos is like optimal for optimal for the Ace matchup, because this allows us to double blocker while removing whatever they played on their 5 Don turn. And then our 8 Don turn would be something like a Workery plus a Jupiter. So like play down Jupiter for 3. This allows us to buff. Maybe we still have a Saturn that's still standing, maybe even a Mars standing, to get in a couple of pokes, and then play down a Workery so we have a block draw. And then this also means that our board is more threatening going into their next turn, because then we can poke and pressure down their life. And then obviously once we get to the 10 Don turn, we are 10 cost gaming. This is essentially the golden path for any going second Emu. Going first as Emu into Ace, things get a little bit trickier. So we're obviously going to still want to have a turn 1 search, either the event or the Shalria. But turn 2, we only have 3 Don to work with, meaning we can't play the Saturn. So the best thing to play out is a Charlos, so we're able to park it and have a blocker for later in the game. And then we would also like to have either an Equilibrium or a Never Existed to follow up with that, so that we aren't actually using the Charlos block on what's probably a 7K swing from the leader, or maybe even a 6K swing. we want to be able to keep that for later on when we need a big swing, probably in their 8 Dawn turn, right? Going into our 5 Dawn turn, turn 3, we'd want to play Saturn. That's played down for 3, which means we also would like to have some counter events to back it up. Alternatively, if we don't have a counter event at this point, we have a second Charlos that we can play down that's also really, really strong at this point. Going into our 7 Dawn turn, we're going to want to answer whatever they played on their 4 Dawn turn. Or if they did play a 4 Dawn Marco into a 5-cost Yama, we could also answer the Yamato with a St. Mars. And since we have 4 additional Dawn to work with after playing the Mars down, we ideally have a Workery. This gives us a double blocker, a blocker that we can actually use to draw a card, and then we're completely safe from anything that they could be going into on their 8 Dawn turn. The alternative to Workery here would be a St. Charlos, and if we play the St. Charlos, we also would have some Dawn up to be able to play counter events. Going into our 9 Dawn turn, we have 9 Dawn to work with. We can play down a Jupiter for 3 Dawn, which allows us to get on some board pressure with our Saturn. And then the other really good card to play at this point would be a Nozro. This is especially true if they just played a Jozu on their side. You could play Peter for 3, Nezro for the 6. That's all 9 Dawn. You swing 7 into Jozu, giving it -2, so it now becomes a 5K. We have the Saturn that's been sitting here all game to turn into it, swinging another 7K, and then leaders swing 5 into it. That gives us a total of 5 cards out of hand. Well, actually 3 cards out of hand if they want to protect it. Often they'll just let it go at that point. And hopefully we have a St. Charlos or some other blockers that we picked up along the way that are still standing, that are able to hold down the fort going into their second 10 Dawn play, or 10 cost that they play down. And then they kind of want to deal with the board a little bit, because now potentially we have 3 7s that we can swing into and then go into our 10 Dawn plays. So it's a lot more intimidating of a board if we have a Peter on the board that they have to deal with. And it also helps us deal with their board. So this is a really strong 9 Dawn play. Of course, it's all situational and context aware. Like, if you're going to end up having to take a bunch of life if you play these down, you don't do that. But this is like the golden path, assuming all things are going well. If we don't have this Nozro, and let's say they played a Yama instead of a Jozu, we could consider playing down a Mars, so then take out the whatever they had that we can take out with this. We could consider playing a Workery. We can consider a Workery plus a Shira, having some just Dawn up for counter events, a Charlos. Really any combination of these can also be pretty strong in the right context. And then lastly, we go into our 10 Dawn turns. Obviously, we're 10 cost gaming from there on out. And that is the golden path if we have to go first. Okay, this is my 3rd time trying to record this. I'm going to go as fast as I can. This is going first as the ace, Emu going second. We're going to try to do our golden path. The reason why I'm going fast is it's my 3rd time recording this video. As each time I record the video, I have been hitting the timeout on the camera, which is very unfortunate. This hand is almost a keep. If we had a Mars instead of the Workery or one of these Nostros, we'd keep it, but we got a mulligan. Anyway, first couple of times, this has gone really well. Unfortunately, I was talking too much, so hopefully we can get another good game and I go fast enough and still explain everything pretty thoroughly. We'll do a little cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, that's an interesting hand. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. Boom. So this is what we mulled into. This is live on air. Ace is going first. We're on the ideal side. So ace starting turn 1. We'll go Ezo. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is rough. I think we grab this. We already have one of these. There's a total of 5 more new gates to find. Only 3 other of these. Yeah, if we do come around to these, something like that would be fine. We do have a lot of searches, so maybe we can find more. And yeah, that was it. Pass. Over here. Boom. Draw for turn. Draw my Dawns. I think there's an argument to just go here. So you can go up to 9 next turn. Let's see what we get when we go 1 cost events. So we go 1 cost events. 1, 2, 3. We're going to want the Mars later, so we'll grab that. Yeah, there's a good chance we end up having to take a hit. Just looking at our hands and what options are available to us. Yeah, we're going to want to grab this. There's actually nothing we want to cycle right now, so we just won't. Pass. Draw. On this side, we want to go in Ezo again, because what are the odds of bottom decking 2 Rogers in a row? Got to be close to 0, right? 3, 4, and 5. Oh my gosh, that was almost a whiff. We grabbed the Jozu, because this is what we got. Bottom decking, I don't think order really matters super. Okay, and then we will play the Garp, top 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just grab the Uta. Those are really good in late game. And then we'll just swing for 7. And unfortunately, over here on the Emu side, we literally cannot do anything, so we take. We find ourselves a Jupiter. That could come in handy, maybe. Refresh. Draw for turn. We found ourselves a Saturn. We have a Saturn plus an event. That's ideal. So we will just go ahead, stage, play out the Saturn, top 5 search. We'll grab a horse because we need one. And then put 2K, 2K, searcher. And then Emu, we will pitch the horse to draw a card. We'll keep it separate from everything else. And that finds us another Mars, which is pretty good. Okay, so we have 1 done live for the events. We have some counter in hand now. Low key, that's a pretty big hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in hand. If he top decks the pudding, that might be the play. But no pudding. Did not get punished over there. We are at 5 Dawn. We do not have the yams. So, oh gosh, it's scuffed already. I'm just putting these out. This is going to affect things mildly, but it's fine. It's third recording. It's just a generic example of how we might be going through these plays. So here, the ace is probably going to want to start with just a 7K swing to face. We have a 7K swing at face coming. We're just going to never exist at that. He could then potentially load up and swing 6, but then we just 2K out, so it's not a big deal. The 7K is the biggest that's going to come out this turn. We'll then pay 4 over here to play out the Marco and pass. So we have 6 cards in hand at this point. The Emu side draws return, gets some Dawn, and refreshes the stage. So now we can go for a Mars into something else. So Mars only costs us 3. We could potentially swing twice after the Mars, and then have 1 more Dawn for the counter event, or we could play out the I'm at your service. And I think I'm biased towards playing the I'm at your service, or the 5 elders are at your service. So we go 1, 2, and 3. And I think we just grab the 2K, letting the Warcry go to trash. Boop. And we've got a Mars and a Jupiter and a Saturn, horse and Warcry. We're set. That's great. Then we swing 6. 6 to lead. Oh, actually, no, we do play out the Mars first so that we can get the value here. Don't want to let him get value out of the block. And then we will pitch, in this instance, probably the Charlos, because there's a chance we could double Mars back-to-back here. So we go to Charlos, KOing the Mars. And And then the ace player gets to draw 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Pretty good. But now we're down to 6 in hand, much less value. We'll go 6 to lead. And the ace player will probably just give us a Jozu in this case. We'll then swing another 6 to lead. And the ace player will probably just go leader effect pitching the red rock because that's not going to get any value in this matchup. And the emu passes. So now we're back to the ace player's turn. Refresh everything. Get some Dawn. Draw for turn. Okay. So we are now up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Dawn. So we could go 1 under the leader, playing out the Jozu, bouncing back 2 cards to us. If we do bounce 2 cards, we have to make the choice of if it's Garpin Ezo or double Ezo. The argument for doing double Ezo is if he tries to Shira punish us, the 2 overswing is better than swinging a 0 into it. But the argument for wanting to bounce the Garp back is that bouncing the Garp back means that we could potentially find a Roger. Both of those I think are valid. I think before anything else, we just start with a 7K swing to see what happens. And off of the 7K swing, we are going to... I think we go just 2K, 1K in this case, because next turn we're going to want to play out the Jupiter, and this gives us potentially 2 swings. I could be wrong there, but I think that's probably the best play in most cases. Because we go into 8 next turn. After the 8 Dawn turn, then it's going to go into 10 cost gaming. And we already have 2 10 cost. This also is a little bit pudding proof because like maybe there's a world where they want to go for the pudding play there. But yeah, then Jozu bounces back. Ezo in a Garp. And passes. So the ace player has 4, 8, 9 cards in hands. Back over to the emu. Refresh everything. Refresh all this. Draw for turn. We get a War Creep. This is actually fantastic. We can play for 3. Play out the Jupiter. This makes both of these 7K. And then we can pay 4 to play out the Warkery. So now I don't think we get to swing with the emu. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14. So yeah, there's no world where we swing with the emu here. But we can leave 1 Dawn up for the never existed and then swing 2 7s. So we go 7. The first 7, I think the emu will answer with just a simple, probably leader effect minus 2K to it. And then the question is, do we leave up double blocker or do we go ahead and swing? And I think the answer is we leave up double blocker in this case. Just because he's the Josu, you can go for a 12K, which means that he'll be swinging potentially 9-9, and that would mean that we can't counter out. So I think what we do is we cycle out. No, we don't cycle, actually. I think we just hold here, so we do have that extra pressure potentially. At least we're going to have 2 swings next turn, and he'll have 1 block potentially. So I think this is fine. So we just pass here. You go to the ace player side. Ace player refreshes board. Draws a card, gets a great card here. Hold on. We will just go the 8 cost to play out the Tembeard. Tembeard then puts out 2 here and 2 under here. And we have 1 Dawn left over. I think we make our swings first. So we swing 8. On the 8, we will block and draw. Shira, that's a great card to get here. And then 9K swing, we block as well. These actually can go out here. Boom. So the reason why we're blocking these instead of using the Never Existed, even though we could have done the Never Existed on the 8K swing, is because we value that in our hand a little bit more than the blocker on the board, I think. I could be proven wrong, but I think that's just what we want to do here. Then he uses the last Dawn to play out the Garp search. Oh, we forgot to get their draws. First, let's get our draws. So we get our 2 draws. Oh, that's so good. We have to discard 1, though. And I think in this instance, the pudding has the least amount of value. It's either the pudding or the yams. I'm going to go with the yams for now. And then we can play the Garp and top 4 search. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we found ourselves another 10 beard. There is an argument to grab the 9, I think, but I think 10 is just strictly better because it lets us find more cards and potentially find another 10 cost to drop here. So this is what our hand's looking like. We've got 8 cards in hand. We've got the Roger set. We've got a blocker beard over here on the Emu side now. We refresh. We are now at 10 Dawn. So draw for turn. Notice the position. We are set up. We have all of our elders. We have a setup for 2 7K swings into this Jozu, followed by recycling things out. The objective of this turn is to try to get rid of the Jozu. And I think that's probably a pretty realistic objective, especially since we already have all of our pieces together. And then from here on, it's going to be a resource battle to try to out-attrition the ace. The ace is almost set up. They have 1 more new gate. They need really 1 more big body, which they can easily find off of these searches, or not searches, but these draws that he's going to be getting. We also get a cycle here with the Ezo. So there is some opportunity here. So I think we could just cut it here and then defer to the other late game examples. But we're in a good spot. We got the 3 life, and we're ready to set up our Tenkash chaining. So yeah, probably the biggest situation that people are wanting to know is what to do when you are going first into ace. And over here, we've already mulled. We've got our mull hand for the ace. It's actually a terrific mull. We've got double searcher plus a Marco plus a pudding and 2K. This is about as good as it gets for the ace starting hands. Over here on the Emu, we haven't dealt out yet, so we'll just do a couple shuffles real quick. And what we're looking for here is we want some protection to go into the late game. By the way, while I'm shuffling, this is week 3 of filming this video. It has been a lot more effort than I anticipated. These sacrifices have been in the form of one of my box lights. It broke during the filming of this. So if you don't mind leaving a like, subscribing to the channel to show your love and support for this type of content, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So for our starting hand here, we get... All right, so here we've got a 10 cost, we have a Charlos. We have a 1 cost event. Now, if these were searchers, this would be pretty good. The Charlos and the 1 cost event are fantastic. It helps us survive into the late game. But unfortunately, I don't think we can keep this because of the lack of searchers, meaning we can't find our other names. So we're going to mulligan. But it can always get worse, so we'll see. And we go. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And also, I have this giant bandage on my hand. It's a small cut from, I was opening some boxes earlier, and I just nipped the tip of my finger, and this was the smallest bandage I had. So I'm fine. It's just a small minor cut, but yeah. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that does us no good, but... Okay, so here we have double searcher.
We have After I'm Losing My Edge. We have the Shira. Unfortunately, this is really, really bad for our starting hand. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because we don't have a 1-cost searcher, we don't really have a turn 1 play. Oh, also, let's put out the life for the ace over here. Boom. Cool. So since we have no turn 1 plays, and I'm Losing My Edge is not going to be live for a long time, I think we use Leader Ability to pitch the I'm Losing My Edge and hope for something better. We get an event, which is fine. But yeah, we'll just pass on that, I suppose, because I think the counter for the Shira is better until we know we want to use the Shira, if that makes sense. So here, Ace is just going to draw for turn, gets an Atmos, probably not going to get played, just a 1K in this matchup. Top 5 off of Ezo. And, whoops. And 4. So here we have two real options, or only 2 options. Jozu or the 8-cost event. And right now, our worst case is on 8. We Charlotte Pudding and put back the 10 cost that they have and make it to where they have like a disrupted late game play. Jozu is a turn 3 play that's good, but I think we want to find our combo on curve more important than playing out the Jozu on curve, if that makes sense. So I think we take this and we put back 2K at the top and then the rest. And then we have one more search this turn. So we go Garp. There is an argument to say that we don't Garp here and instead hold, but we have a good pitch in a 1K here and we have a 2K. So we can naturally get out of most things and we want to find our combo pieces. So go top 4 search. And this grabs us. We now have full combo. 8 cost and a 10, and the Emu has that as a game knowledge. Cool. Passing back. The Emu in this case top decks a 5 Elders at your service, which we will immediately play. And we show a Never Existed, a Mars, and a Shalria. In this case, I think the Mars has highest priority because we need this on our 7 Dawn turn to be able to establish a blocker and remove a swing. So we will play down the Mars. These go to the trash. And then now we're thinking about what to do with the rest of our cards. I think we poke for a 6. Swing 6. The ace here will want to counter out with 1K. The reason we swing out with a 6 because we don't really have anything we can play down to the board. So we might as well try to pressure some cards out of hand early. He also doesn't have a Dawn under him. So if we do take the damage as the ace, we're not getting that leader effect and that's not live. So you might as well go for it. And then now we get to think of cards to pitch. So we don't have any names in our trash. We only have 2 names showing. So we kind of want to hold off on trashing these. We know we need to play this not next turn, but the turn after. The 10 cost is really the only thing we could cycle out this turn, but we don't really want to cycle this out either. So I think we just hold, keep 1 Dawn up for the Equilibrium, and pass. Over here on the ace side, Dawn comes back, drawing for turn. We found a 9-cost Newgate, which is potentially handy in the very, very late game. I think we always just poke for 6 here because we're going to want to play the Marco on all game scenarios. And here we have to decide, do we want to Shirahoshi or do we want to Equilibrium? The argument for Equilibrium over Shirahoshi is we might actually want to play the Shirahoshi to get down hand size and act as a pseudo blocker. The Equilibrium, though, of course, is a... Actually, I think you just always 2K here, right? Because we see the 2 potential swings that can swing into the Shirahoshi for free. So the Shirahoshi isn't going to get a lot more value than a single one. So I think we always just Shirahoshi in this case. 2K out. And then the ace is going to pay 4 to play out the Marco. Going down to 5 cards in hand. Back over onto the Emu side. Drawing for turn. We found another Mars. So a lot of the time, the Mars would get cycled out if we had duplicates. Like if this was even curve, I think we cycle out one of these because we're only really going to have time to play one Mars. However, because in this game, we're now up to 5 done, right? Oh, there's the 5th done. However, in this game, since we are the emu play, we're going first. We are going to play 1 on 7 next turn, which will probably get rid of this Marco. And then we're going to need to play another one on our 9 Dawn to pop whatever he plays next turn, most likely. For that reason, I think it is worth holding on to it and seeing what we get off of the Saturn before we decide what we pitch. So we will pay the stage, pay 3, and play out a Saturn here. We still have 2 Dawn left over. We're going to see what we get here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the only real option here is the Jupiter, because we already have another Saturn to play, and we need this name. So the Jupiter is actually a great grab. And then we'll put the rest on the bottom. The Charlo's at the top because worst case it's a blocker and a 1K, so sometimes that might be relevant. And there they go to the bottom. And then now we come back to the decision, do we want to pitch anything? And we look at our trash. We've got 5 in trash. So you could punish us with an Atmos right now. And there's nothing that we could do to get around an Atmos bounce. I think because we are still digging for different names, we are going to have to end up pitching a Mars here. I really don't like that line, though. It's either the Mars or the Jupiter. And the thinking around the Mars is we might be able to find another one or another blocker. We need to cycle something out. The Jupiter is always a 2K. He has 2 6s showing, so if he does the Jozu bouncing some stuff and then swinging with the Marco, then this is a 2K, oops, this is a 3K, and we get out of that scot-free. However, the problem with that is we might want to play the double Mars. We can't really afford to get rid of this Saturn, and we don't really want to release the Saturn on the board, even though we don't really have a lot of pressure that we can build. If next turn on our 7, for example, we decide to go Saturn into a Mars, we now have 2 bodies showing. We can then threaten the Jupiter the following turn to kind of start pressuring some board, as well as following that up with maybe a Venus to hit a sideways body. So maybe the Mars is the cycle choice here. And that drew us into another 5 Elders, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. And we will just swing 6K to the ace player over here. So as the ace player, we don't know that he has 2 5 Elders in hand. We've only seen him search the Jupiter, so we know he has a 2K. And we see that he has 6 in hand. And we are expecting to pressure his hand next turn. But we don't have a turn 2 play. So I think between giving him a 2K and giving him a 1K, we go for the Thatch, just in case we make him take a life and then punish the taking the life with the pudding. Okay, and then the Emu player will pass, goes back to the Ace player. Ace gets 2 more Dawn. Now on the 6 Dawn turn, we draw a card for turn, and we go into a Marco. So realistically, I think here our best choice is to go 7-7 and then play down the Marco. So if he takes both and goes to 8 cards in hand, we play the pudding. If he takes only 1 or none, we play the Marco. Because the Marco is like a pseudo draw 3. It's a minimum draw 2. So it's at least a +1 in hand size. And yeah, I think that just makes sense. So we'll start with our leader swing for 7. And on the Emu side, That's an easy pay 1 for the equilibrium. On the following 7K swing here, we have to take, I think, because we can't really afford to give him 2 of these cards, right? So we take, and it happens to be a never existed, which is a pretty good draw for us. And then the ace will play out the Marco. The ace's hand is down to 4 here. So hopefully we can start building up some hand size. When one of those Marcos dies, it's +3 to hand, so I think it's fine. Okay. Back to the Emu player. We refresh, we now have 7 Dawn. We draw a card, we find another name in the form of Warkery. So the options here are we can play down a 4 and then swing none and only get rid of one of these Marcos. Or we could potentially get rid of both Marcos by swinging 6 with a Saturn. Would make it to where he has to give us 1 of 4 cards in hand. And then we could choose if we want to go 6 again with the Saturn or go 8 with the Emu. And I think I like that line better because if we go 6 here, get 1 card out of hand, and then go 8, he would have to give us 2 cards going down to 1 card in hand going into his 8 Dawn turn, which would mean that he doesn't have the combo in hand. And if that's the case, then we are going to be in an advantageous position anyway. If he does let the Marco go, then it puts us in a position where we can KO the other Marco, and then he only has 1 swing coming at us with 1 block. So in any case, I think it's best to start swinging into this Marco with a 6, 8, and then play out the Mars and KOing the other body. So yeah, let's go here. Start with a 6 on the Saturn, 6 to Marco. And then from this position on the ace side, I don't think we can really afford to get rid of any of these cards right now. We could say you could pitch the pudding, but we don't have a way of saving it anyway. So I think we just let it go and see what 3 cards we draw. Boom, 1, 2, and 3. And I think that actually plays in our favor. So now, since that one goes through, we can do something different. We can swing another 6 to get 1 card out of hand, which we'll do here. I think in this position, we're feeling like we're pretty ahead. And we give up the 1 cost Garp. I could also see an argument for just getting rid of a 2K here. The problem with getting rid of a 2K is if he's thinking he's going to Mars this other Marco, we're going to get 2 more cards, right? But we have a lot of bricks in hand, and that would only leave us with 2 natural 1Ks and no natural 2Ks, meaning we have to pitch one of these 4 to act as a 2K if you start swinging 8s at us. So I think we go for a natural 1K, and I think the pudding, it could be argued that the pudding doesn't get value, and we need to find the Roger. So let's go ahead and give the pudding. You gave up the pudding. I think that's also fine. And then, obviously, we follow that up with a leader releasing this Saturn. I say this Saturn because we see the pudding. If he didn't pudding there, I think we get rid of probably one of the 5 elders in hand. But going -1 pudding, I have the confidence now that he's not going to pudding me before like super late game, and we really want to find a better card. So we'll go there, draw. We find a natural 2K, which is good for us. And then we will tap 3, tap the stage, play out the Mars, and we are going to pitch probably this one. Because he's going to go for an 8K swing next turn. So this dies, and ace gets 2 more draws. Draw 1, draw 2. 2 more 2Ks. All right. Back over to the ace player. His board right now, not very threatening. The Emu's board, we only have a single Mars over there. So it makes a lot of sense to just go rip the 8, don't do anything fancy, don't need to take life or anything. Just play the 8 cost event, there it is. Play out the 10 cost, and then start loading up some Dawns to here, and to the Garp. And then we draw 2, found the Roger, and a Yamato, and then trash 1 that we don't need. I think the Yamato doesn't get played because we have another 10 cost. We have a Rush Roger, so that's probably just never getting played. I don't think we have time for it later on. And then we can just poke for a lovely 8K to the lead. So now over here we have an option. We either block it or we never exist out of it. The argument for blocking it is that it doesn't give up hand knowledge. But I think in this case, we never exist because it drops us down to 5 cards in hand, which reduces our odds of getting puddinged. And it leaves us a blocker next turn so that we only need to be able to play 1 blocker on the crackback. So I think that's fine. And he passes back to us. We draw 1 more for turn. We get an Equilibrium, which is good. I mean, it's not great, but it's good. So here, I think we pay the 4. Right, because we have 4 to play out the Saturn. We then have 3 to play out whatever we want to play out, either the Warcurry or if we find something that we want to play more. That would be good. We really want to find a horse. And then we have 1 to swing 6 with leader. And then we have 1 for the Equilibrium. So I think we just poke for 6, see what he does. In this scenario, I think he's looking at the board. He doesn't feel threatened at all and just gets the free block. If he wants to turn this sideways, that's advantageous for the ace because that means he has to play 2 cards out of hand to be able to not take life. And then if he hits us in the face for life, we get to draw 1. So I think either way, we don't mind. It's just a free play. And then we will go and pay that 4, play out the Saturn. Saturn top 5 search, found the horse, another 5 elders, another 5 elders. So we have all 4 5 elders are in the deck. We want to grab the horse, and then we want to make a mental note that the first 5 elders is however many cards away from the bottom. So right now we'd want to count our deck if you don't have it in your head already. I don't because I've been talking. So 5, oh gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So it's 25 cards away, which means we are 5 Saturn searches from hitting it. So next turn, we're going to be able to do a Saturn search. That's 5. The turn after, another Saturn search. That's another 5. Plus, we're going to be drawing and such. So there's a good chance we'll be able to get around to it again before we run out of Elder plays. You don't have to worry about that right now. We'll tap 3 to play out the Warcurry. And then we will leader effect, pitching the Venus to draw a card. And we found ourselves a Shirahoshi, which is a good one to get at this stage of the game as well. We'll pass 1 Dawn up. We have 2 live blockers, and it goes back to the ace player. So ace player, refresh. Draws for the turn. We don't have a 8-cost event, so there's 2 viable plays that we can do. We can either just play down the 9-beard and become an 8K and basically make it to where there's no hand pressure next turn whatsoever. Or we can play down the Newgate, and the Newgate gives us another big block, lets us see more cards, help us find other plays. So the advantage to going the Newgate route is we can find potentially another spell or another 10 cost to chain next turn. The downside to that route is we would only be a 6k lead, so he could go potentially, depending on how many swings we do here, 2 to 3 cards out of hand. But the question is 2 to 3 cards out of hand worth playing the objectively worst card? Because as soon as this turns sideways, a horse makes it an 8, a second horse makes it a 6, and then this gets really easy to remove. So this isn't as intimidating. We really want to be playing this like the last of our Newgate plays when we go to a 10k lead. The double 10 cost blocker before their first Elders is a little bit more intimidating, I think. So I think we'll go that route. Plus we have a lot of natural counter in hand, so it's not that big of a deal. So we pay 10, play out the Newgate, draw 2, trashing 1. In this case, I think we trash a Garp. And then we can attach 2 Rested Dawn to the Ace, 2 Rested Dawn to the standing Newgate. And then the second question is, do we swing? And I think at this stage of the game, we almost always say yes, just because if we swing, he gets 1 card, one additional card, but he already has all 5 Elders in the trash. He likely has a 5 Elders in his hand, and we have 8 cards in hand. So if he gets off 4 swings, that means that we could potentially be going down 4 cards because we'd only have 1. Well, let's say we have 2 blocks. We go down 2 cards. But if he ends up blocking both of these, then we're also going to be going down, we'd only be going down 1 card because we can block 1, counter out the other. So I think it's probably more worth just swing out and give him the +1 than for us to go -2. So that's the calculation I'm doing here. So we'll block and draw as the emo on the first one. Finds a 1k, not really anything. The 14k to face, we will block with the Mars, and we are left with a lone Saturn. Ace passes, goes back to the Emu player. We get our first 10 on turn, and we refresh, draw for turn, and we are in a pretty good position. We're going into our first 10 on turn. We have 7 cards in hand, which is pretty decent. We have a Shirahoshi, which means we can force some discards. We can put a little bit of pressure on with these 6s into a Venus, and we'll be in a spot that we can probably survive a couple more turns. So this, I think, is... I'm not sure if it's a winning position. It depends on what the next couple of draws for the aces, but it's a decent position, and I think if you watch the other endgame state ones, you can kind of see how you want to navigate from here. Yeah.
Post-edit Brian here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It has been way more work to put this video together than I initially thought when I started. So if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that'd be very much appreciated. I hope you're able to get some value out of this guide. Obviously, there's plenty of mistakes that I made on both the Ace and the Emu sides, but I hope that this at least gives you a framework for how to think about the matchup and how to approach Ace from the Emu's perspective. I think the tips in here are enough to take you a long way, and obviously I'm not covering absolutely every possible scenario, and there are some scenarios where you just lose. But I do think that this matchup in particular is exceptionally interesting and very interactive to play. It really truly does feel like the best player, or the player playing better, or just seeing the better cards, is the one that ends up winning. And it just feels very rewarding to learn the matchup and be able to play through it against a good player. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you find something helpful. Please be sure to leave any additional questions you have in the comment section below. If I see some common ones that are quick to address, I'll try to make like miscellaneous tips for the matchup as a follow-up. But yeah, thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.